Mind of a goldfish, Anthony. Memory of a goldfish, whatever phrase you want to use. That's what we got to use again.
It always brings a smile to my face. But hey, the Commanders are in Spain, so maybe a little, Spanish vineyard, little Spanish countryside, a little different scenery can be good for this squad. Hit that intro.
Hail to the Commanders! It's the Commanders Squad. Everything Washington Commanders every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the heart of the nation's capital. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Rally the burgundy and gold. The Commanders Squad Show starts now.
All right, Anthony Armstrong, Nick Ashew, David Harrison going to join us when he can jump on. He's actually out in Madrid right now. He was on at the beginning of this and then took some time to kind of get things ramped up, and he's got Joe Theismann to talk to. So we'll talk to him as soon as he jumps on here. You and I were talking 2 days in a row here, buddy.
He's putting us on the back burner for Joe Theismann. Like, I don't know if I like that.
I could deal with it. I could deal with it. You and I talking 2 days in a row. You came on local DC radio with me and Doc Walker yesterday. That was fun.
That is true.
I'm glad by the way, you were 100% on the same page as me with Jayden Daniels. So we'll get to that in this show and where we are now in terms of Jayden Daniels' timetable. Guys that need to step up for this team. That's clearly going to be something that's a big part of today because, well, there's a long list of guys that are out. So this is opportunity in the whole next man up situation. We are brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you're going to get $300 in bonus bets across the entire app. So Commanders have traveled out to Madrid, starting to adjust to the time zone. I mean, we've all traveled, whether you've been to Madrid or not, Anthony. And, people are creatures of habit. Athletes are certainly creatures of habit. I'm sure you had your daily routine, your weekly routine before games, after games, all those types of things. When you look at just this whole international scene that the NFL's got now, Commanders obviously going to see the Dolphins in Madrid, but we've had Germany games. We've had tons of games in London. And how much of an effect does this have on players and teams with their routine? Not just like time zone, but like there's so much more than that, isn't there?
Yeah, it really is. You got to think about the day-to-day operations of, where is the training room at? And now is it going to be on a certain floor in a hotel? It's not, you don't have to drive places. And then off the field, your normal day-to-day family things are different, right? A lot of guys have families, they have kids. So this is an extended road trip. So that changes up some scenarios back at the crib a little bit as well. But the good thing is that there have been so many international games now that, frankly, you've got a lot of blueprints where you can reach out and ask somebody if you haven't been. And I feel like a lot of people have been on these trips now. I had never made it, but I think a few coaches and executives have made it now to where they could understand how to handle things. And, I know going out to Seattle, we left a day early. Normally leaving on a Saturday, we left on a Friday to give us that Saturday to kind of get acclimated to the time difference. I think they left on Tuesday. So they got over there as soon as possible. Get reacclimated to that time change. But, the best part is that they just get to focus on football. They'll probably see the sights a little bit, and that'll be fun to experience, but they don't got to worry about at-home drama. They don't got to, deal with all that stuff. They can just go out there, focus on football, reconnect as a team, which I think is going to be big, and then just, try to put a good product out there on Sunday.
And that's, I think, the big thing is this could go two ways, right? Like, travel could be a pain in the ass for them, or it could be something that really helps them reset and gets them away from the noise. And maybe getting out of that routine is what they need. And we're not going to know until they actually, play the game and get out there and we kind of see what they look like. But, I think it's something that could be beneficial to them if they utilize it in the right way. Some time to just clear their head, right? Everybody needs a vacation. This team hasn't had a bye week yet, and they're massively injured. Like, the bye week comes after this. So maybe there's even and again, this is all like me guessing, and every player, every coach could be different in terms of their mindset. But there's maybe a chance that this is almost a clear your head type situation a little bit. Get out and see some of Madrid and get some time to just kind of take a breath and relax and adjust to all this. Yeah, we won't know, but I think that that's something that could end up being valuable to this team. Obviously, you have to think about it from a perspective, too, of like forgetting what's happened over the last month plus and forgetting and there's so much you can do, right? The injuries are a thing. Like, there are things that are going to get in the way of this, but like, it's it's one of those where we said this after the game, right after the Detroit game, where it felt like that was the first time where I really went, oh my God, this is a meltdown. Like this is now mentally, they look angry and checked out and frustrated and things are starting to boil over. So with the Dolphins coming off of their win, they're riding high right now. You saw the video in the locker room. They're celebrating. They're excited. Like this is a thing for them. They beat Buffalo. Commanders are stuck in the middle of a losing streak. So you've got two teams technically going in the opposite directions. I think really on this first quarter is going to tell us a lot in this game. You know how I feel about these first quarters, but when you look at that first quarter, if the Commanders come out and look a little sharper, look a little bit more relaxed, the pressure is off them, I think then we can feel confident throughout the game. But if this looks like the Dolphins running all over them early and using their speed and really taking advantage and riding that momentum from Buffalo, I think that's when you start to go, uh-oh, we got ourselves a problem here.
Yeah, one thing to consider about the Dolphins win is they're coming off of a major change, right? Getting rid of their GM, Chris Greer. They let him go.
Yeah.
So now you really got your guy, Mike McDaniel, in there. You're fighting for your coach. I think that was the right decision. They had to move on from the common denominator. And I was on another show. Matter of fact, on Locked On NFL Players show, which was cool. Over 80 years of NFL experience, over 8 Super Bowls up there. We were chopping it up. We were talking about hell over there with the Giants. I'm getting rid of Dable. I feel like it should have been the GM, but that's a whole other conversation and a whole other show. But the Dolphins were fired up, and they're fired up for a division opponent. So I think they had 2 reasons to really be that much more hyped. Like they couldn't lay an egg after getting rid of the GM, and they decided to roll with Mike McDaniel. So it shows that they're behind him. So they're still going to be prepared well. And, Mike, get back against Washington a little bit. I know that the ownership is different, but it's still the organization. He looked up to Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn was very influential in his sobriety and then getting back into playing the game and just how to treat people. The way Dan Quinn has an impact on Mike McDaniel, it's going to be a big game for him. But also on the flip side, Dan Quinn's taking over the defense. He's taking some ownership of some things and saying, you know what, give me the keys to this car. I'm going to drive it. I'll park the dually in the lot, and I ain't going to hit nothing. So he's going to want to be prepared against this offense as well. It's going to be a good matchup. I really think these are 2 teams that are pretty similar. Obviously, we're having the injury plague going on, and then they've got the Tua turn the ball over parade happening. So maybe the defense can get their hands on a couple of footballs, get back going in some good momentum. But I want to see this defense swing first this time and not have to be reactionary with it, if you know what I mean.
I love that you went with a dually as the analogy there too.
Down here in Texas, baby. Shoot, man. I was
gonna say that is very Texas of you to go dually.
I say that's my dream car, man. Ever since college.
Is it really?
I want me a dually with hips, man. And just back that big old diesel. Back that sucker up, man. Boy, them country boys up in school used to lead them suckers running. Let me tell you, they go in I said, hey man, your truck on. They're like, it's all right. I mean, you're going to be gone a whole hour. They just leave that dually up there running, man. Then you get in there. It's got a damn sectional, a love seat. It's got so much space. I was like, this is nice. I want one of these dualies, man. So
I learned something about you every show, every time we talk. And now I know that you really want a dually. And I love this. I think this is
Look
great.
It up, man.
We get some AI photo in here and get you looking like you're in the dually, get you test out the colors. We can do a whole kind of thing with you. You bring up a great point though, besides the dually. And I could definitely see you driving one, by the way. Dan Quinn calling the defense. This is our first sight now is like, if the defense looks a lot better, well, that tells us it's coaching, right? That there was a difference. If it doesn't look any better, that tells us that it's personnel. And I think that's something that's really going to be important to keep an eye on this game, especially with this Dolphins offense, which I get it, right? Like, I know the turnovers and the mistakes and the ups and downs the Dolphins have had this year, but they are explosive and they do have their moments. They do have their potential to make big plays and take this team over the top. There's a lot of that potential that's there. So Dan Quinn, his first game taking over the defense essentially here, that's going to be a real test, but it's also going to give us a true sight into, okay, this is clearly a defensive coordinator situation, or, okay, this is clearly a defensive personnel situation.
With all the injuries, we got to be real. You got to put that caveat in there. So he's not They're going to have Lattimore, and then Amos is out as well, which all those injuries suck. Will Harris is out, but I did see they opened his 21-day window to return. So that's good news. But ultimately, I think it's going to come down to effort. That's what I'm looking at. I want to see how these guys show up. I want to see who's paying attention to the small details of the game, right? There's going to be some extra coaching. Dan Quinn's a guy that likes to get hands-on and really wants to get involved with it. And, he's been letting his guy run the show for a little bit. And now he definitely had to go and take the reins back from him so he could, right the ship, if you will. So, I'm looking to see these guys fired up. I'm looking to see these guys running around, matching the same energy of their head coach, having that same, that level of communication that's going to be necessary, because all three levels have to play together and be on the same page. So making a move like this, I would like to think that the defense can really get behind Dan Quinn taking this thing over, Nick. And I don't know, man. Like, who do you see being somebody that could benefit the most from him taking over on that spot?
I'd love to see more from Jordan McGee, that's a name we throw around a lot, but I think it's just, I really want to see what some of these young guys look like. And I get, we've had the conversation on here. David certainly brought up, PFF rankings, whether people put a lot of stock into them or a little bit. I think there's certainly value in them. You obviously have to watch the tape, and there's more than just numbers, but they do tell a story. And he's not getting as many snaps as you'd want because maybe he hasn't earned them. Maybe they're not comfortable enough seeing that. But again, you're right. There's a lot of names that are out. That's a lot of things you have to consider. But there's also the fact here that, maybe there is something that Dan Quinn sees that, Joe Witt hasn't seen, that this defensive staff hasn't seen. And there's something there that now he can change. Because remember, when they hired Dan Quinn, that was one of the questions, right? It was, is he going to call the defense? Is he going to actually be a part of that and taking over it? Because we know the success that he had in Dallas. And we saw the drop-off that Dallas had after he left. I know some personnel changes were made, but overall, that defense had a big time drop off after Dan Quinn left. So the hope obviously here now is that this defense gets right at least enough with the personnel that they have, and Dan Quinn's able to kind of maximize everybody's talent and put them in a position to succeed, because that's really going to be the one thing that's going to truly give this team a shot sitting at 3-7 to have any sort of uptick the rest of the season. And whether you're playing for a draft pick in your mind as a fan, players aren't, but whether you want this to be about draft picks now and all that or not, the reality is the players on the field are not going to be thinking that way. They are at least thinking about what they've got on tape, whether they're going to be with this team next year or somebody else or whatever the case is. So players aren't tanking. So Dan Quinn is obviously thinking, we've got to win. We've got to get better. And this will be the first, if this defense, Anthony, can get better, that's a major upside for them, because we know that this offense still has the potential to have its moments. I know it's depleted too, but the defense has still been a much bigger liability than the offense has, even with everybody out.
Yeah, the thing on the defense is that it has always seemed like it's always been one bit of, the safety didn't communicate or didn't understand the call, and then this person didn't understand it. You know what I mean? So it's always been where it's it feels like if you brought me the damn Phillips head, but I need a flat head. It seems like it's something that simple, right? Just the communication of it. That's how it comes across. Because why are there so many people running wide the hell open? That's not something you generally see. Now, I was thinking the other side of it is you expect people to catch passes on you. You expect people to make plays. This is the league, but it's just not supposed to be wide the hell open, right? If we start to see people, dog was in here. I did not know he was in here.
Dog agrees, right?
Oh my gosh, he agrees. I didn't know you were here. I didn't know it was a live studio audience in person. Damn, he threw me off. Yeah, he threw me off.
I love
really
it.
Shook me up a little bit, man.
That's definitely a first
on the show. And then a dog shook me up, man. I'm normally cool and calm, man, but you see, I was ready to run. I was actually ready to get the hell out of here.
You popped up. You were like,
wasn't expecting the dog to be out here. The dog in the fight. No. That's what I'm saying. I want to see the defense be that much, be on your S word, right? Be on your stuff. That's what they haven't been on. And it's almost given one of those ones, if I was at practice and the coach is like, hey man, you need to do this, or, make sure you lock up to that receiver, blah, blah, blah. All right, cool. I got it. And then they kind of move on from it. You get what I mean? It gives that. It gives me that type of feeling that's just kind of how they've been rolling. And that's why I always say you either coaching it or you're letting it happen. And it's like I said, it's one thing to know I have cover two, but it's like, hey man, you obviously see the corner routes open. The safety saying, help me out on this. If the communication in there, then communicate the other way, right? Cornerback can take control over it and make sure the safety has the call. That's what I want to see improve. Like there should be some sound improvement just based off that the talent ain't going up. The talent is what it is, but if somebody's at least close to, in the position to make a play on the ball, then I think that's an improvement. I can say, okay, the talent ain't it. But if you're in the right position, now at least I know y'all are thinking the right thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's the first. This is really going to be the first gauge. I think between the first quarter and the start and the defense specifically, those are the two things that I'm looking at the most from a big picture. But what about a smaller picture? We mentioned one name in Jordan McGee, a guy that could certainly take advantage of this. But what about some other guys that have a real opportunity in Madrid? And have we changed our minds at all? Talked about it earlier. Just mentioned it on Jayden Daniels and his return for this team this season. It's all coming up. Plus, David Harrison going to join us live from Madrid here on Commander Squad. And we are brought to you by BetterHelp. As the days get shorter and the nights come earlier, it can feel a little heavier, especially when life is already packed with work and family and everything else. This season, it's important to reach out and check in with friends, family, and even yourself. Just like checking in on a teammate, reconnecting with someone you haven't seen in a while can lift their spirits. Reaching out for therapy can make a real difference too. BetterHelp makes that first step easier by connecting you with a licensed therapist online wherever you are. And this month, don't wait to reach out. Whether you're checking in on a friend or reaching out to a therapist yourself, BetterHelp makes it simple to take that first step. Listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's betterhelp.com/lockedon, because taking that step toward support might just leave you wondering, why didn't I do it sooner?
That was a tricky one.
It was a little tricky. I'm, the transitions today too, just in general here. I'm just going to pull back the curtain. Things are dragging just a bit, and it is driving me insane, but we endure. Listen, just like the Commanders with all their injuries, you got to endure. You got to go right through it. Jordan McGee is certainly one name that's out there. I think I can probably guess that you and I are on the same page when it comes to Chris Rodriguez getting more of an opportunity. Can we, before we kind of look at anybody else that might really benefit in this game, is there any way that you can, because I can't, maybe you can from what you've watched on film, pinpoint why Chris Rodriguez doesn't get more opportunity? Like, I mean, this guy goes out there and we saw it last year. We've seen it again in these spurts again this year. It's not like Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt has run away with this thing. I just don't understand, and I haven't been able to put my finger on why we haven't seen more of him, other than the fact that they're just not running the ball maybe as much because they're down, but yet they still are running the ball a lot. Like, they're still picking up a lot of yards on the ground. So it's just like this weird situation for me with Chris Rodriguez that I don't understand.
Yeah, I'm not sure why he's not getting the opportunities to tote the note even more, because he definitely sets the tone, right? He's the body puncher. Bill has been the counter puncher. That you're trying to lead with that counter, and it's not working. You have to set them up so the defense can protect the inside first. But that's where I feel like Chris Rodriguez fits in, but it just seems like it doesn't fit with where the offensive philosophy is, or like what they feel the script of the game wants to go. It's as if they want to start fast, get some points on the board, and then close it out with Rodriguez. Well, obviously things haven't been really playing out that way, right? Maybe I feel you got to flip it, right? Try to bludgeon the defense first, set them up, and then hit yourself with some explosives, because honestly, if we look at the lineup that you're putting out there, it's not the most talent. And then the defenses aren't respecting the receivers. I mean, one, as a receiver, you should be pissed off. Be like, man, I'm getting one-on-one coverage over here, and they're playing press man all day. They're playing up in my face because they're trying to put more pressure on that quarterback. Now, hey, let's run it up the middle. Let's get some play action and create some easier opportunities to get open. Soften up the defense that way, and then Bill can come over there and slice and dice them. Hell, that's what worked in week one, right? Obviously, the things got changed up, but I don't know, man. I feel like you talk about McGee and Rodriguez. They kind of are both in that same category. Like, why aren't these guys getting more ops? But McGee's obviously behind, Bobby Wagner, and there's more on that side to handle. But on the offensive side, man, I don't know. I will say trust is probably something deep down inside. McNichols being a pass protector. Maybe they just haven't seen, or they don't really all the way trust Chris in that light. But I've seen some good reps where he's done a great job stepping up in there, being willing to take on the blitz. So I don't know. It seems like it's just going to be all up on the decision maker to put him in there more. But I do think Chris Rodriguez needs to get more carries, man. Start him out early.
Yeah, I mean, it's a situation where, like, I get it. We don't necessarily see what's happening in practice, but you do see what happens in the game. So it's like you have these moments where you go, "Oh, there it is. There's the flash," and you get like 5.5 yards of carry, and you're going, "This is the guy. This guy should get more opportunity, whatever." And then you look around, you're like, it's just not happening. So I think we're probably going to be asking that question really the entire season. I just feel like at this point, it's going to kind of be this roller coaster between the two. It's good. It's going to be good to see Sam Cosmi out there again, though. This will be his second game back, and you hope that from the first to the second, it's going to be night and day difference just in terms of being comfortable out there. And for all this talk about guys farther down the depth chart playing, having Sam Cosmi out there, because that's massively important for this team, because it's not like they haven't invested in their offensive line, with a Josh Connerly out there and obviously Laramie Tunsil in that trade and some of these guys they brought in to build up that offensive line, which is important when you have your quarterback that's young, that you want to keep healthy, that you want to protect, which we haven't seen this year. To get this offensive line back and get that continuity and get that rhythm there, I think that'll make a major difference for them, because it's not just about this year. It's also going to be like, okay, this is the combination that we're going to want to go with moving forward and try to solidify that, because continuity on the offensive line, as I'm sure even as a receiver, like that matters for everybody across the board out there offensively.
Yeah. If we're being real, offensive line has been they haven't been decimated by injuries. Okay. There's been a little bit of shuffling of just trying to find the right combination. Yeah. There was a graphic going by where somebody put the depth chart, and then they started scratching out all the people that were injured. And offensive line was the only spot that didn't have anybody that was gone, for what that's worth. So, they're just slowly improving, but a lot of things hasn't really been on them. I think that a lot of times you see a sack and then they're like, oh, the offensive line didn't do their job. But when you really go back and look at some things, you're like, well, if we throw the ball quicker, or if you look this way versus that way, you do something different, then maybe those aren't sacks, right? So the sacks are full, right? They're outside. What are the receivers doing? What is the quarterback doing? Obviously, what is the offensive line doing? So a sack can be a full team thing. And then I think really it's been all more on quarterbacks rather than just getting straight up beat. Oh, let me digress. All right. The offensive line has gotten their ass whooped a few times. All right. I remember the Giants game. They've been some ass whooping. But recently they've been doing a little bit better. All right. They've been consistent. They've had their struggles, sure, but I still think the quarterback can play a little bit better and avoid a few of those sacks is what I'm trying to get to.
All right, I see David Harrison ready, so let's break real quick, come back, talk to David, bring him in live from Madrid next here on Commander's Squad. So when the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts for a fast project? Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer there. Plus, the part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every single detail matters. Join the free Trademaster program today and join serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. All right, and live from Madrid, here he is. He's all the way out in Spain, across the pond. He's on, I don't even know what time it is, my friends. David Harrison, there you are, buddy. I know you talked to Joe Theismann. I know you've been running around, adjusting and traveling. Have you caught your breath? Have you had a minute to just go, oh, here we are?
Yeah, like Brett Favre with the big ass head I had coming in here like that. Yeah, no, I mean Madrid has been good. The only thing I'm really dealing with, I got a little bit of congestion. Chick Hernandez from WSA 9 has been messing with me all day, talking about I'm sick and coming around the beat, but I'm not sick, Chick. I've got some congestion going on from being in an airplane, a couple airplanes, hotel with all the recirculating air. It's messing with my my breathing. So I apologize if I sound a little bit sick. But listen, when you come to Spain, guys, here's what you do. So Anthony, see me in person. Nick, you don't know this. I'm a fat guy. So look, you got Milka European chocolate, which Milka, if you don't know about Milka, Milka is like the chocolate. And this bad boy's got Oreo in it. Like, I saw that. I was like, that is a fat man's dream right there. So I grabbed me one of those bars. I'm gonna have one of those later. It's they do it different over here in Europe.
Man, don't gatekeep, man. That's us skinny guys can get down on some of that too now. Shoot, man.
Yeah, hold on now. Doesn't act like I can't also have some candy here, my friend. Trust me, I got a sweet tooth too. So
hey, you know what? I might bring a couple of these bad boys back.
Definitely worth it to me.
Yeah, I'll bring a couple back then.
All right, that's good.
How's Joe doing, man? How's Joe T doing?
Oh, Joe's great. Joe is always great. You know, he's out here in Spain doing some stuff with USAA. They just got done doing some flag football stuff with some sailors. It's like Spanish Navy, American Navy, American Air Force, Marines are there as well. And then, of course, you know, we had to talk about Jayden. We had to talk about the coaching decision, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, Joe's always a good time. I love talking to Joe.
Happy Veterans Day, by the way, David.
Oh yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
How was the travel? I know there was a flight issue, like literally the entire country right now.
There is. Mine was a little bit different. Flat tire on the airplane, 2.5 hours to get that bad boy repaired. And don't get me wrong, like, listen, like, look, it's super annoying because I'm sitting there. I had an hour 20 layover in Germany to switch flights. So they get on the thing and they're like, hey, we got a punctured tire. So it's going to take about an hour to change. They got to do paperwork, security checks. Then we're going to let you guys stretch your legs a little bit because we're on the plane. So they're jacking up this plane to change this tire as we're sitting there. So like, you can't move the entire time they have this plane on this jack or else it's dangerous, right? So we're sitting there and then, so I'm on the phone with United because I'm like, hey, like, I'm not making this connection. So get me on a different flight. So before we even took off for the 8.5 hour flight, we're already on the plane for 2.5 hours. So, you know, 11 hours total on that plane later. We get to Frankfurt. And, you know, look, a little bit of dedication to duty here, guys. Like, went and rented one of those sleep pods in Frankfurt, Germany, so I could do my show. So I did my show from a sleep pod instead of taking a nap like a normal human being. I went and did my show from a sleep pod. It looked like I was in some sort of facility, but you know, got the job done. Got here last night. Got me some takeout chicken, which Spain does takeout chicken different. Like, it's like real chicken. It's not, even like Chick-fil-A. Like, it's chicken. It's good stuff. Yeah, and then practice today. You know what I mean? So, you know, rolling with the punches, but also truly immensely blessed, obviously, to be able to do this job and be here for this.
That's exciting, man. I'm glad you get to be out there. Enjoy that. Enjoy that. I guess you didn't get to see much of practice, or what is the tone? Has the tempo been any different with Dan Quinn running the defense, or does it seem like things are kind of going as per usual?
Yeah, you know, I think that we're really going to be able to tell the difference between what Dan's going to do versus what's already been happening on game day. I think what it boils down to is the timely calls. You know, that's really kind of, you know, when you talk about like replacing a coordinator, Anthony, you know, this, like, in season, if you replace a coordinator, people seem to think it's like, hey, you know, Joe Witt runs a, 4-3 base. It's really like a 3-3-5 mentality type of defense, but 4-3 base defense. This guy over here runs, I don't know, a 3-3-5, and I really love a 3-3-5. So let's bring him in November instead. Or like this assistant coach, he comes from a 4-3, and this guy runs a 3-4. I don't like it. Like, the scheme can't change mid-season. Like, the scheme is what the scheme is. You know, the majority of everything that's been taught, you can adjust and tinker and install some new things, sure, but you can't just make a wholesale change mid-season. So I think really it's just about the execution of the driver, right? Like, how is Dan Quinn going to drive this defense versus how Joe Witt Jr. drove this defense? In practice today, we got to see the same amount as we do every regular season practice, which is really not much. Very small field. Defense was like all the way on the opposite side of the field. So, I can tell you that the running backs were having a good time. The receivers were looking pretty good, but the linebackers were kind of tiny. Couldn't really see him. But talking to Bobby Wagner and Frankie Luvu after practice together, you kind of tell like the seriousness of the situation. I don't think it's necessarily just the coaching change, but just understand that you're 3-7, right? This is a team that just like we all had Super Bowl aspirations for them, they had Super Bowl aspirations. So they're just as disappointed in how it's gone, if not more so, because it's one thing to be disappointed in the team you're watching. It's another thing to be the team that's disappointing everybody, right? Like that's to me, that's probably worse. I would imagine trying to have some human empathy here. But the focus is the same. I think the players are kind of putting it on them, and they feel like they probably let Joe down a little bit. But at the end of the day, everybody's resolve is the same, including Joe Witt, which is to figure out how to make this thing work the right way.
They're also not going to have De'Von Achane out there. And now we had that video surface, which we knew was probably going to show up at some point, of Amon-Ra St. Brown kind of swinging first. But we all know what happens, guys, right? It's never the first guy that gets caught. Always the guys that swing second. Always the guy that does it next is the one that gets that ends up getting seen here. Was there much said at all, David, about just that situation at this point and kind of how that was approached? And because I think most people knew there had to be more to the story when we only saw his half of it where he's swinging at him. We've got it now, but in reality, he's not going to be out there. The appeal was upheld.
Yeah, and look, the suspension should have been upheld. Like, truthfully, you can't just walk around, treating people like the Charlie Murphy. This isn't a comedy skit. This is real life, and you can't just be smacking people upside the head. I don't care if they are wearing
my water out after that. Thank you.
I don't care if they are wearing protective gear, right? You can't do that. Now, I say that, but Amon-Ra St. Brown, you can't be doing that either, dude. You slapped De'Von Achane, and when Javon Kinlaw said that in the locker room. So the situation that's going on, right? There's injured players happening, and there's just all kinds of chaos happening at that moment. And truthfully, I don't know if anybody in the press box saw De'Von Achane actually slap Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's next thing we know, he's just getting ejected, and we're all sitting there what happened? And the broadcast isn't replaying anything. And it wasn't until after the game, and we eventually found out, obviously, he slapped him. But then we talked to Javon Kinlaw. He's like, well, Amon-Ra St. Brown slapped him first. And so two thoughts go through my head. One, Javon Kinlaw's not a liar. So if he says that Amon-Ra St. Brown slapped De'Von Achane, Amon-Ra St. Brown slapped De'Von Achane, I believe him. Two, we're all grown men out here. It's not really who started it. You know what I'm saying? It's not really who started it type of situation. Now, I don't know what was said on the field, and obviously, De'Ron might be asked about this next week when we all get back home. But, I know a lot of times in those situations, and Anthony, you can speak to this. I don't know if it's an every time or just, sometimes, refs might see something like that happen and be like, hey, look, you can't do that, chill, da-da-da-da. And it's almost like a warning to both sides in baseball where it's and the managers always get mad, right? It's hold up, my dude just got beamed, and now you're warning me and saying I can't get retaliation. That's not fair. Well, again, we're all grown men, so we got to understand the business. So it kind of seems to me, because if you watch that clip, the ref also steps in, doesn't throw a flag, yes, and he should have thrown a flag, but he's also talking to them. And so I kind of get the vibe he probably was saying hey, knock that up, it's over, it's done. We're not doing this anymore. And then 2 plays later, De'Ron is we're going to start it back up and we're going to do this again. And that's why you get the punishment that you get. I don't know if Amon-Ra is going to get fined. I mean, the video is obviously out there. So the NFL, if you have any integrity, Amon-Ra St. Brown's got to at least get fined. Truthfully, you can make a case that Amon-Ra St. Brown should be suspended for this weekend. If you're going to suspend De'Von Achane, is it just because the ref threw the flag that is that the difference between suspension and not suspension? Is you got penalized for it while the other guy just got talked to? Because that seems like a really bad precedent to set if you're the NFL.
You make a good point there, especially you go, this is kind of sidebar, but if they were going to start to fine or penalize people for missed punches at the peanut punch, I saw something say that if you miss, you may get a disciplinary. That's a whole, gut punch. But yeah, I think Amon-Ra should definitely get fined. That should happen. And I could say, I remember speaking with Gene Steratore. I did the NFL broadcast boot camp. He came in there and he got to talk. He's like, I kind of like it. He'll let some of the energy get built up. He likes it like that because it's football, right? You should be a little bit of tussling going on back and forth. So to see the ref kind of step in and be like, yo, chill. He understands both of those players have an importance to the game, right? And I would have loved for it to stop right there. And I get the frustration, but you mentioned it was 2 plays later. It wasn't like De'Ron, they were exchanging hands right there. Like it was a couple plays later, and then it was right in front of a lot of other people. So yeah, it warranted the suspension, but some refs will kind of let some tensions rise a little bit because it's good for the game. But yeah, you can't just go off and steal on somebody like that.
Well, and clearly two plays later, that tells you like he was waiting for his chance, right? It wasn't just heat of the moment. It was like, okay, like I'm gonna get my chance.
In between the whistles that much later, man. You gotta hope to
right.
be like, man, let me drop off, and if you run a shallow, I'm dropping off, like something like that.
Yeah,
man. You gotta do it a whole other time in between the whistles. You cannot do it with your right hand.
Yeah, like you can't find out your girl cheated on you, and then 2 weeks later go try to fight the guy, like, bro.
I mean, it's true. If you're gonna do it, well, I guess that could depend, though. I see Anthony thinking too. It's like, well, was the opportunity presented at the moment, or maybe you got to wait a little bit potentially, but it might be better to just go in and right. Although cooling down might help you a little bit too. There could maybe de-escalate things just
no
a little
fisticuffs, man. No fighting, y'all.
Yeah. All right. So listen, like. Anthony and I talked earlier, David, about this and just the travel and the time zone and all that. I mean, you kind of went through what your experience was, but like I think that is a major factor, certainly in these international games. And players will talk about it, organizations will talk about it, the supplies they need to bring and what they need to, just all of that stuff that's going through it. How much of an effect does it have? Like, one, do they admit at all to you or anybody else that like, yeah, this is kind of a grind doing this? Like, what is sort of the conversation around the travel and the grind that does bring on a lot of players? Because I can imagine getting thrown out of your routine isn't necessarily helpful. Although with this team, maybe they need to be thrown out of the routine just a little bit right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Their routine hasn't necessarily brought success. So that might be a little bit of a welcome jarring, right? But, I think it's interesting. I think experience and expectation, which kind of go hand in hand, obviously, I think really plays a big part in it. So we talked to Sam Cosmi, Tyler Biadasz, Bobby Wagner, and Frankie Louvu today after practice. And Sam Cosmi was kind of, just very funny about it. And like, yeah, I'm still trying to get used to it. A lot of guys on the plane were talking about like, hey, don't take naps when you get to the hotel, like get your body right and all that stuff. And Sam admitted that he failed. He took a nap. And then, by the time he went back to bed, he ended up awake at 5 o'clock this morning in Spain. So he's at about 5 a.m. and he's got nothing to do. So he's just kind of waiting to go to work and all that stuff. So getting your body on the right clock is certainly a big thing. But then you talk to a guy like Bobby Wagner, who, has experience with these kinds of things and has done this before and been around this block. And he's just kind of like, yeah, it's cool to be in Spain, but there's really no other impact other than that. And it's actually funny because I was talking to one of the Washington Post reporters, and for to be honest, I don't actually know if this is his first time overseas ever, or at least for work and having to go to work right when you get overseas. But we're just talking, and he was just being honest. And he's like, yeah, he's like, I'm dog tired, and I'm whooped, and like the jet lag is for real. And then he's kind of like, how are you? And I was like, oh, I'm good. And it was kind of weird to me because like it almost felt like I was bragging, which is not really a brag. It's like, oh, I'm not tired. That's not really a brag. You know what I mean? But then it kind of dawned on me, and I was thinking about this, like, and just my life history. Like I've flown internationally more than probably a lot of people are ever going to fly domestic, right? Just because of the career path that I chose. And so like it's something that like getting on the plane in Dulles, and even though like 2.5 hours on tarmac and all the delays and everything, like I got to Spain, I'm like, all right, here's what I need to do to be ready for the morning. I get up in the morning and it's like I'm in Ashburn. Like it's just another day. Only the road signs are weird and the speed limits are terrible because they only go 100 Ks in Spain. And for those who don't know, that's only 62 miles per hour. And I am not a guy that likes to drive 62 miles per hour in a 60-mile-an-hour zone, let alone any other zone. But anyway, a lot of sidetracks today. I'm sorry, guys. But
no,
as you can tell, like I'm very energetic, right? Like I've been in this country for less than 24 hours and I've got energy. I'm ready to go. I'm fired up. Like, let's do this work. Like this is my third taping today. I've got 2 more to do tonight before I go to bed, and I'm good. Like, let's do this. So I think the experience of it really matters. So when you look at like the Los Angeles Rams, who recently did this trip overseas, and they're like, we're going out there Friday, we'll land Saturday, we'll go kick some butt on Sunday. They had a lot of players on that team that have done this before. And if you do that, you can prep the young guys. Hey, look, here's what you need to do. Here's how you need to do it. And if your leadership is down in the locker room, not only do you tell the young guys the info they need, but they follow it, right? They actually listen to it. They don't just go, okay, old guy, I'm young, I know what I'm doing. And I think that happened a little bit. Like Ja'Cory Brooks landed in Spain, and like as soon as he could, he was out the door exploring Madrid. He was just like, I'm out here, people. We're feeling good. We're doing great things. Meanwhile, Sam Cosmi's in the bed napping, right? So it's like, what's the difference here? Well, Sam's got a wife and baby at home, and so he's probably trying to spend all the family time he can, not sleeping, not resting for the flight. And Ja'Cory Brooks is young. He's like, all right, let me get a nap in. So I think that those types of things matter. The good news is it's Wednesday. Like Sam Cosmi, everybody else will be fine by the time Sunday morning rolls around.
More time, the better to get prepared. I mean, I guess I've never been over there. I was supposed to go. We had something set up, then there was somebody had a little health issue that was the organizer, so didn't get to make that trip. But hopefully you get to do a little dancing, a little bailar, right, a little salsa or something like that.
That I would love to see. I need videos of that.
Listen,
yes,
you're not getting me, but I will tell you this: there is. I actually don't know if I'm allowed to let this out the bag, so I will just tell you this: there is a former player who goes on a news station very often, who may or may not be scheduled for flamenco dance lessons and may or may not be getting recorded for the pregame show on said station.
Can I guess? This feels like
there's only one news station I would be plugging. So it's really not that vague of a tease, but
I'd be guessing wrong. I'm over here like Chick. I could see Chick Hernandez doing it.
I would love to see Chick.
Chick look Spanish. Hell, Chick
would be really good at it.
Hernandez.
I think Santana would be really good at it. I think Tana would knock it out the park. Went
to school in Miami, man.
Yep.
I mean, hey, you gotta have a little something in there. Went down there, shoot. I feel like the way that Cosmi might try it too. I think Cosmi would.
That would be amazing.
He'd do the gritty again. So
but not the best choice. But that's what makes it better is when the guys aren't actually good at it. That makes it a lot funnier. So, all right. So David is live from Madrid. Anthony Armstrong, Nick Ashew as well. What we expect from this game next as we wrap this thing up? It's Commander Squad. All right, the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. And even if you missed the start of the game and want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a single game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps the game getting more exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head over to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. David talking about the congestion going on up in here. Ooh, it keeps getting worse for me. I'm not gonna. The temperature has dropped drastically in our area, and it is. Whew, it got me real quick. That being said, we are looking at a game now where the Commanders are underdogs to the Miami Dolphins, and whether you dabble in that or not, it really doesn't matter. It just gives you a gauge of kind of where at least people see this game going at the moment. We touched on it a little bit at the beginning, David, and I think for the way that this is kind of looked at, right, is there's a lot of potential positives here where breaking up the routine might be a good thing for them, and getting out of what they've done before and maybe clearing their head a little bit might be helpful. And Dan Quinn taking over the defense could show that, hey, maybe it is just coaching, and we know what Dan Quinn can do as a defensive coordinator. We certainly saw it in Dallas. The two keys for me in this game against the Dolphins are, one, as it's always been, how do they look in the first quarter? Because we know that is an up and down battle at best this season. But two, it is how that defense looks with Dan Quinn in charge versus where it was before, which, David, that'll tell us, I think in a lot of ways, not definitively, but I think to a point, whether it's coaching or personnel, if Dan Quinn can step in there and you go, oh, wow, this defense is better than we thought. Granted, there's a ton of guys that are going to be out in this game, but those are the two biggest things that I'm really going to be watching on Sunday morning, just to kind of get a gauge of like what we might be looking at the rest of the season with the Commanders.
Yeah, no, I think that's spot on because, the conversation of like how much of this is injury related, how much of it is coaching / scheme related, I think is a very real one. And I think that there is a significant portion of what's going on this season that should be attributed to the injuries. But at the same time, like, listen, Jeremy Reeves may not be as well-rounded a safety as Will Harris, right? So Will Harris goes out, Jeremy Reeves comes in. There's a drop-off there. There just is. Like, Rebo is very talented. I love the dude. but there is a drop off between your starter and your backup. There always is. Well, I say always because sometimes your backup comes in, balls out, and becomes a starter, right? But usually, I should say there is. However, and I'm not pointing to Revo like saying, I think this is multiple times I've said this on the show. I need to pick a new name, but I'm not saying Revo to say like Revo is messing up a lot, but just as an example, talking point, you know, if Revo is in the right position, if the right play is called, if the right play is executed, and he's in the spot and the offense just wins, right? Because that happens, then okay, you can live with it. But the problem here, why so many people are looking at scheme and saying it's not the injuries and all that stuff. And obviously, I think the team agrees, because if not, Joe Witt probably is calling plays this weekend. Is guys are out of position and guys are not doing what they're supposed to do, one, and guys are not understanding what they're supposed to do, number two. And honestly, something that's been more alarming to me that I really haven't been able to dive into all that much because now he's on IR is Trey Amos. The last 2 weeks, I've seen Trey Amos confused, playing out of position, playing out of his spot more than I ever saw during the rest of this season. Up to the last 2 weeks, he was like one of the most consistent defensive players, which is impressive for him as a rookie and sad for the defense because he's a rookie. But then the last 2 weeks, I've seen him out of place. I've seen him making the wrong reads. I've seen him confused. And I'm like, hold up. Like, now we got a guy who's doing some good things and he's starting to regress mid-season. As a trainer, I would say, all right, training session is over. Like, put the dog up. We're done. This is the NFL. You can't do that. There's 7 more games left. You can't go to Roger Goodell and say, hey, our good players are starting to regress. Raj, we're done. He's like, no, you're not. You're crazy. What are you talking about? So you still have to go out there. And I think that's what this change is kind of about, is like, listen, even if this team doesn't get back into playoff contention, even if they don't go on a 10-game winning streak and do all these other, or 7-game winning streak and do all these crazy things, like, at least let's stop the bleeding. Let's, even if we just get to a solid ground and stay there for the rest of the season, you got to stop the fall, because, I mean, these guys can't stop anything on defense now, Anthony. And even with the injuries they've had, it wasn't like that 3-4 weeks ago. Well, 3 weeks ago it was. 4 weeks ago, it wasn't that bad. It's actually gotten significantly worse in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, David, you're spot on. I said it earlier, and I was so glad that you said it, because I was like, that's exactly what's the difference. It's just like guys aren't even in the right area code. It's like, dude, what are you seeing? And that means it's like, to me, it feels like you're just not, everybody's not communicating. I think I said it earlier. It's one of those ones where you mess up in practice and then they say, hey, you need to cover this. And they say, I got it. Rather than doing the rep again. It gets annoying where you'll have the coaches say, re-rack it, run it again. And then, like, as a practice squad player, I love making the defenses do that. I love pissing those defenders off, because it's like, no, if you're not covering it in practice, you can't just talk it out and be, hey, we finna point and then we finna. No, you got to go and run that again, because you're going to see it again. Yeah, I mean, you could run practice just off of the stuff that you get beat on and get better. You get what I mean? So it's like, that's what lets me know. I feel like it's either you're coaching it or you're letting it happen. I don't think they're coaching it to say, hey, let people run wide open. It's come down to the point that folks aren't making the active changes. They're not sitting there saying, fix the flaws that we have, and we're just going to talk about doing it. So yeah, I'm expected to see, a more focused defense that's flying around, that's just in the right position. I ain't even mad if a guy makes a great catch. To give him a pat on the butt and let's go, line back up. But I'm right here, right? It's not going to be like everybody looking around like, why is this person uncovered, Nick? We're in the right track. I think they're going to have a good game against this team. They're going to be tested, though, because you struggle against very fast running backs, and De'Von Achane is one of the fastest in the game.
Oh, Achane is, I mean, listen, the Dolphins, even without Tyreek Hill, and again, we maybe haven't even seen the best Tyreek Hill for a while now, they still have a lot of explosive play potential with the talent that they have out there. And that's something that this defense is going to have to focus on, which maybe the opposite is play more physical and beat them up, because they're not a physical team. And, this is maybe it's the physicality versus finesse, and you've got to use that physicality and establish that early. And, hopefully that comes from the defense with Dan Quinn out there. You weren't here at the beginning, David, but we went on, of course, Chris Rodriguez watch again as we sit there and wonder why he hasn't played more. Have you done any research? Have you investigated more as to why we're not seeing more carries from Chris Rodriguez, other than they've been down a ton and can't run the football as much? Because it blows our mind. Lots of people are wondering where Chris Rodriguez is. All three of us, this has become our thing on this show. We all can agree. We all can yell from the mountaintops here. I'd love to see more Chris Rodriguez. And we're just not seeing it. I would love to see that on Sunday, especially early, establish the run and maybe keep the Dolphins offense off the field for a while.
Yeah, I think that's what you should expect coming into this weekend, honestly. So, fortunately for me, Chick Hernandez did a little bit of that heavy lifting for me, right? So he does a one-on-one with Dan Quinn every day after the game. Now, because of the travel and everything, it happened on Tuesday this week, and he straight up asked him about Chris Rodriguez, and basically Dan kind of confirmed, like, yeah, like he's going to be our kind of our lead guy moving forward. Today, he was asked about him again in the press conference, said a lot of good things about Chris. And, just give you kind of a little bit of an indication, and it's not always, 100%, true to form, but typically it kind of sits there. There's, we're getting two sets of two players after every game, after every practice this week, I should say, because we're not allowed in the locker room. Real Madrid, let me tell you something. Love Spain, love the hospitality, but their reputation for being completely arrogant, it tracks. We're not allowed in their locker rooms. We're not allowed in their locker rooms. So the team is organizing two sets of players, 2x2. So like today, like I said, Tyler Biadasz, Sam Cosme, they were side by side. You'll see, if you haven't seen already, there's videos out there. I'll be posting some videos as well. And then we got Frankie Luke and Bobby Wagner together in tandem. When the running backs come up on Friday, it's Chris Rodriguez and Jeremy McNichols. Those are the two backs we're getting. So the team only makes X amount of players available for us. Typically, it's not going to be a guy that's not going to get a lot of burn, right? As far as like the amount of carries, 6 carries is not what you want to see. But again, game flow obviously decides a lot of that stuff. So hopefully, they can do some things on defense, do some things on offense to keep the game flow manageable so that Chris can get in there a little bit more. But, I think that he's shown in his work to be a reliable back. He's good with ball security. And as I say that, I knock on wood because every time I say that, I just pray this isn't the week he loses some serious fumble. And even last week's stat line, like I know the stat line, if you stat scout him, Anthony, which a lot of us in this walk of life love to do, and I know you players love when we stat scout because that's always accurate. You're like, oh, like Chris didn't even have that great of a game. Like, why do you want more of him? But if you actually watch the game, including the 1-yard touchdown, which clearly drives the average down, but if you watch the game, you see that he was very effective when the game was within reach, and then once the game's out of reach, they kind of go away from it, and there's nothing he can do about that.
And when you talk about the play cadence, I think sometimes with the bad first quarter that Nick talks about so much, a lot of times I get the feeling that they go away from the run just because it's a bad first quarter, and then they feel as if you have to throw it, to get back, and you have to quickly try to score 21 as fast as possible. But that's not the way it has to be. I mean, you could just lengthen the game out and just slow it down, get back to running the rock. Give your defense a chance to kind of catch their breath a bit, and control the way this thing gets going and how the heat's on the pot, So that comes down to just having patience on the offensive side, and maybe the coordinator is kind of just chomping at the bit to throw that thing around. I get it, but we got to go with what's working. We can't just go try to force, a vitamin down somebody's, throat if they don't like it, if it ain't really hitting like that. So I'm excited for Rodriguez this week. I'm excited for him. The physical approach will be good against the Dolphins, like you said. And you got to do it from the start. You really got to do it from the start. What is obviously outside of Achane and then I guess Waddle, what else on offense? I mean, I think the height of the defensive line should help against Tua. What do you think, David? Since he can't.
I mean, Tua is a quarterback that can be, one, he can be rattled. Two, he can be known for making some desperation type plays. You just got to take advantage of it. And like you said, the height definitely matters. Like, get up there and do those volleyball drills and get some tip passes at the line of scrimmage and do all those things. See if you can't get a takeaway or two. Obviously, you hope Tua can stay healthy. That's like the first thing first that always comes up whenever I think of Tua Tagovailoa playing this game, which is not a good place to be. But I mean, what's really cool though, guys, is I haven't actually gotten to hear the Tua. I've got the some friends over from the Miami media sent over Tua's press conference today. So I know he said some really good things about Marcus Mariota. He and Marcus have a really good relationship. Both of them went to the same high school, not at the same time. Marcus made it very clear today that he's much older than Tua Tagovailoa is, but they did go to the same high school, things like that. So, it's kind of cool, like history being made in Spain. You got two, Polynesian quarterbacks starting for their respective sides, things like that. Frankie Luvu was asked about, like, when you're on the island, playing soccer, honestly, mostly is what Frankie played.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever think that you'd be an NFL player making history in Spain, and just kind of like the, connecting the dots and kind of seeing where everybody has come from has been really cool. But, when it comes to the game right now, your competitors and all the time for all that mushy stuff goes out the window, and we'll be brothers again after the game. So yeah, I think this defense can get after Tua. My concern, you already hit it, like, can they keep the edge, set even a little bit to make it matter that you can get to Tua? Because you can't rattle Tua if Tua doesn't have the ball and they're just running all over the field.
Yeah, it's listen, this is a game I feel cautiously optimistic about, but there are certain things that I want to see early. You mentioned the first quarter. I will always look at that as a gauge for the way that this is going to go. It doesn't guarantee everything, but digging yourself a hole to any of these offenses they've seen, including the Dolphins when they're at their high end, I think is a spot that the Commanders definitely don't want to be in. But with Dan Quinn calling this defense, hopefully that gives them a new spark. And it really just kind of shakes things up a little bit for them, which is what they need, because the last thing that you want is heading into a bye week, coming off of another loss, and the streak continues and things get worse, right? See, you're looking, Anthony, right? Like, there's nothing worse than going into a bye week when you're coming off of a loss or there's just bad vibes around the team, which is what's going to happen if they're flying back from Madrid after a loss to the Dolphins.
You ain't lying. That's a long trip to have to go back sulking and feeling sour about yourself. Like I mentioned earlier, that flight back from Seattle, I'm glad we won back in 2011 because I did not like the flight out there. I mean, if there was a pit stop part way going out there to Spain, I would have probably chosen that option because I'm not a fan of having to fly so long. But, man, like I said in the very beginning, you're getting a chance to go out, but at least go into the bye week on a good note, and taking the vacation, but taking this work trip abroad can be the respite that they need to kind of get away from the drama of the city, right? The drama of DC, the family life, everybody off the field. Somebody's father-in-law don't know how to hold his tongue. He messaged you, what's going on? Why they ain't playing you, right? Chris Rodriguez, T.O. texted him, they got to put you in the game some more. Like, that's frustrating as hell, man. Go out there, ball against a team that's struggling as well. They're trying to get themselves back together with the Dolphins. So this could be good, and come back into that bye week and finish the season with some momentum. Right. I think that's probably what Dan Quinn wants to get out of this team. Show up with some energy, go home with a good taste in your mouth after a win, and then come back refreshed to finish out the season strong.
Yeah, and this is where this team needs to be.
Comment sections? Can we talk about comment sections real quick? So you bring up Chris Rodriguez, and when he scored that touchdown last week and spiked the ball, and darn near took the photographer's head off when he was spiking the ball. First of all, that photographer works for the team. She knows the score. She knows the environment that she's in. She knows what to do, and she knows how to. And if you watch her, like, she slipped right, and it was a pretty slick move, like good reaction time, ball missed her, and everything else. She's good. Like, I promise you, she's good. Chris has apologized to her for almost taking her head off and all this stuff. But if you go through you go like a Chris Rodriguez Instagram post, you see people on there calling them names and all, like they know each other, like they work around each other. You know what I mean? Like, trust me, they're fine. She's good. There's nothing to do, and there's no reason to go into Chris Rodriguez's comments and stuff, talking down on that man who if you don't even know him, I don't know, why we as a society feel the right to go into people's comment sections down talking to them like we actually know them when we don't know them. But trust me, she's good, he's good, they're good. Like, let's let people handle their business on their own.
It's almost like people just, I don't know, want to be outraged by something and anything that they possibly can. And that's kind of what this feels like here. All right, Commanders, Dolphins, Sunday morning, 9:30 a.m. Eastern from Madrid. David, enjoy your time out there. Anthony, enjoy the Mavs no longer having Nico Harrison in charge as their general manager. Congratulations on that. We will be back
that man
after
change that last name.
Yeah, there you go. We will be back after the game. Make sure you, of course, like and subscribe and give us all the follows on all of the different platforms because there are quite many nowadays. This is Commander Squad.